Chapter 1323. Taiji Lake. Yichen couldn't help but let out a groan when he jumped in. The heaven-earth cold spring was too cold, and it wasn't something an ordinary person could endure without any defenses. The flow of his blood and qi gradually slowed down, and even his vitality showed signs of being frozen. Yichen's position just so happened to be at the boundary between the heaven-earth cold spring and the spring of life. The left side of his body was nearly frozen by the heaven-earth cold spring, while the right side of his body was being nourished by the spring of life. One side was comfortable, while the other was cold. It was simply the 9 heavens of ice and fire. Taking out a golden body fruit, Yichen directly swallowed it down. Visible to the naked eye, a layer of golden color spread out from Yichen's body. This was the medicinal effect of the golden body fruit. The biggest characteristic of the golden body fruit was its rapid absorption. When the medicinal effect of the golden body fruit was exhausted, Yichen took out 100 refinement grass and opened his mouth. The essence of the 100 refinement grass turned into a cold light and was sucked into his mouth. Compared to the golden body fruit, the 100 refinement grass was much harder to absorb. However, the medicinal effect of the 100 refinement grass was 10 times stronger than the golden body fruit. Cold light blossomed on Yichen's body bit by bit. When the cold light gradually covered Yichen's entire body was like a steel cast that had been tempered 1,000 times. Even his hair was hard and emitted cold light in all directions. 40 golden body fruits and 500 refinement grass. In the end, the golden light and cold light intertwined on Yichen's body, and his aura became incomparably firm. At this point, no amount of golden body fruits and 100 refinement grass would be of any use. The human body had a limit to its absorption. After all, Yichen wasn't a physique refinement sovereign, and the limit of his body's absorption was far from that of a physique refinement sovereign. Generally, if a physique refinement sovereign wanted to break through their absorption limit, they would have to find even more precious treasures to break through. Now, he had to see if he could break through to the 9th grade spirit body. Otherwise, Yichen could only search for more precious treasures. The spring of life was filled with boundless vitality, while the heaven-earth cold spring was bone-chilling. Yichen, who was in between the two, felt his body itch numb, hot, cold, stinging, and soft. With the effects of the spring of life and the heaven-earth cold spring, the medicinal power of the golden body fruit, and the medicinal power of the 100 refinements herbs were quickly absorbed and refined. The nourishment of the spring of life and the stimulation of the heaven-earth cold spring could more or less increase the absorption power. He's already at the peak of the 8th step. Yichen could clearly feel his body becoming stronger and stronger, his bones becoming harder and harder, his muscles becoming more and more full of explosive power. The inextinguishable strength within his body was also rising steadily. Closing his eyes, Yichen sank into the spring water. Breaking through to the 9th order spiritual body wasn't something that could be done overnight. He had plenty of time. After a month, Yichen floated up. Breaking through to the 9th order spiritual body was countless times more difficult than he had imagined. No wonder only 5 people from the human race had broken through to the 9th order spiritual body. Apart from true martial sovereign, the others were all body refinement sovereigns. It should be known that those sovereigns who hadn't broken through to the 9th order spiritual body were already thousands of years old, while the older ones were already hundreds of thousands of years old. If it was so easy to break through, they would have done so long ago. The remaining energy of the spring of life and the heaven-earth cold spring was less than 1% of their original energy. Yichen called Su Jing and Morong Qingqing over and let them soak in the Taiji Lake. Su Jing was a body refinement sovereign, and her spirit body had already reached the late 8th order. Morong Qingqing wasn't bad either, having just broken through to the early 8th order not long ago. However, their martial arts were too low, unlike Yichen, who was a sovereign and had the 10th level of the immortal sword body, which could resist the low temperature of the heaven-earth cold spring. Therefore, the remaining energy of the spring of life and the heaven-earth cold spring was just the limit of what they could bear, which was very beneficial to them. In the Taiji Lake, 2 white and tender figures swam back and forth, creating a unique scene. Yichen, who hadn't had the pleasure of having sex for a long time, felt his heart move. He tangled with the two, and beautiful sounds spread out. In the vast starry sky, there was no end to it. Yi Chen made up his mind to break through to the ninth order spirit body. The heavenly river was too unpredictable, and hell was too mysterious. Yi Chen didn't want to go to these two places for the time being. Therefore, he set his goal on exploring the universe. To a sovereign, the universe was boundless, and exploring the universe was basically everyone's dream. It should be known that the territories occupied by the Human Race Alliance and the Demons Alliance were only a small part of the universe. Whether there were other races in other places, no one could be sure without seeing them with their own eyes. Yi Chen's speed was very fast. Normally, he could fly hundreds of thousands of light years in a day. At full speed, it was possible for him to travel millions of light years in a day. Yi Chen went to many places, such as the Death God Star Zone, where the Death God Vines gathered. In this star zone, there was an Emperor-level Death God Vine on every planet. Some of the Death God Vines had even reached the sovereign level, and they could kill ordinary sovereigns, or even powerful sovereigns. The skilled were bold. Yi Chen went on a rampage in the Death God Star Zone, and the Death God Vines that filled the starry sky couldn't stop him at all. It's been 3 months. This place should be hundreds of millions of light years away from the 4 major star zones with life. Yi Chen stood on a neutron star. The neutron star's powerful gravity and terrifying high temperature were useless to him. They couldn't even damage his clothes. Swoosh! A deep pit appeared on the neutron star, and Yi Chen disappeared. Soon half a year had passed. Yi Chen came to the side of a deep and unfathomable black river. This was the famous dark galaxy in the universe. There were many dark beasts in the dark galaxy. In addition, there was also an extremely rare treasure, the dark lotus. The roots of the dark lotus could temper the body. The leaves could heal wounds. And the most precious thing was the lotus seed. A single seed could save one 1,000 years of hard work. The only pity was that the dark lotus was only useful to people who cultivated demonic power, such as the demons and the demonic humans who cultivated demonic power. Morong Qingqing's talent and comprehension weren't top-notch. Without external help, she would need at least tens of thousands of years to become a sovereign. Take Duga Ju for example. If he couldn't grasp the big picture, then the time it would take for him to become a sovereign would be 10 times, or even 100 times longer. It would take at least a few thousand years. This was also why there would only be 1 or 2 amazing people in an era. The others would only serve as foils. With the Dark Lotus, Morong Qingqing could save a few thousand years of hard work. A dark beast comparable to an ordinary sovereign pounced at Yi Chen, its huge body parting the water with terrifying momentum. Facing the dark beast that was thousands of times larger than him, Yi Chen stretched out his right hand and grabbed lightly. Poof! The dark beast was directly crushed into meat paste. While the immortal sword body gave Yi Chen a powerful defense, it also gave him an invincible power. Although the power contained in the immortal sword body was only comparable to a powerful sovereign, it was still quite amazing. The dark galaxy flowed all the time. Without Yi Chen knowing, Yi Chen followed the dark galaxy to another place, a place that Yi Chen had never been to before. Chapter 1324. Although the dark galaxy couldn't be compared to the celestial river, it was still unpredictable. If an ordinary supremacy entered, they might get trapped and wouldn't be able to get out. As he roamed the dark galaxy, Yi Chen gradually got used to its environment. This place gave people a feeling of loneliness, emptiness, and coldness. There are mana fluctuations. On this day, Yi Chen sensed mana fluctuations different from those of the dark beasts. These fluctuations were very weak, and Yi Chen had to distinguish them several times before he could confirm it. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen flew towards the source of the mana fluctuations. Yi Chen discovered that the closer he got to the source of the mana fluctuations, the more dark beasts there were. There were ordinary supremacy dark beasts, powerful supremacy dark beasts, and super supremacy dark beasts. These dark beasts all had violent natures, and they were frantically attacking Yi Chen. Seeing that more and more dark beasts were attacking him, Yi Chen became ruthless. He unsheathed the heavenly sword and released a death slash. The dense sword net cleared out a large number of dark beasts, and only a few super dark beasts survived. Looking at Yi Chun in bewilderment, these dark beasts swung their tails and fled in a certain direction. Yi Chun couldn't be bothered to chase after them, so he continued forward. Half a day passed, and Yi Chun arrived at the source of the mana fluctuations. He saw that the black water had formed a whirlpool, and in the center of the whirlpool, a black lotus the size of a mountain was blooming. The roots of the black lotus went deep into the whirlpool, and the leaves covered the whirlpool. Above the leaves was a lotus pod the size of a small mountain. Black lotus of darkness. A trace of joy flashed on Yi Chun's face. Just as he was about to pluck the black lotus of darkness, the nearby space-time rippled, and a huge head popped out. It was a dark beast. Compared to the super dark beasts, this dark beast's head was a bit smaller, and there was an additional golden pattern on its head. It looked ruthless and noble. It should be the leader of the dark beasts. Roar! Upon discovering Yi Chun, the dark behemoth chief roared into the sky, and a terrifying sound wave radiated outwards, causing Yi Chun's hair and clothes to flutter wildly. High-level Super Supremes or Peak Super Supremes? The previous few Super Dark Behemoths were only Elementary Super Supremes or Intermediate Super Supremes. Seeing the Darkness Behemoth Chief's attack, Yi Chun knew what grade it was. The Darkness Behemoth Chief's entire body darted out and raised its right paw. 5 rays of black light flashed out, evaporating the black water. With a clang, Yi Chun was sent flying. Peak Super Supremes. Yi Chun's battle prowess was also at the Peak Super Supremes level. It might be slightly stronger, but there was a limit to it. However, Yi Chun's strength lay in his defense, which wasn't much weaker than his attack. He could resist the attack of a Peak Super Supremes head-on. Seeing that the other party was at the Peak Super Supremes level, Yi Chun relaxed. As long as it wasn't a quasi-legendary Supremes, it was basically impossible for it to pose a threat to him. In fact, even if it was a quasi-legendary Supremes, Yi Chun still had the strength to fight. With the heavenly sword in hand, he also had the chance to injure a quasi-legendary Supremes. The battle between man and beast caused the surrounding black water to disappear. Yi Chun's defense was strong, and the Dark Beast Chief's defense wasn't weak either. Unfortunately, the heavenly sword in Yi Chun's hand would definitely leave a sword mark on the Dark Beast Chief's body. In the long run, the Dark Beast Chief would become weaker and weaker, until it was killed by Yi Chun. Roar! The Dark Beast Chief was enraged. The golden patterns on its head sparkled. In the next moment, it opened its mouth and spat out a black light with golden threads. The black light flashed and disappeared. When it appeared again, it was already in front of Yi Chun. As this was the Dark Galaxy, Yi Chun's movement speed and dodging ability were greatly reduced, so he couldn't completely dodge. Break! It was very straightforward. Yi Chun didn't dodge, and slashed the black light with his sword. Pfft! The black light was split into 2. One of the halves landed on Yi Chun's shoulder. With a snap, Yi Chun's shoulder split open and blood flowed. This black light actually broke through Yi Chun's defense. This should be the other party's strongest move. The crack on his shoulder healed. Yi Chun thought to himself. Seeing that Yi Chun was injured, the Dark Beast Chief continued to spit out black light. It's not up to you. Yi Chun didn't want to be hit by the black light again. Although it could only injure him lightly, it had consumed a lot of his energy. Raising the heaven sword high, Yi Chun slashed out with the 5-colored sword chi. 5 elements sword art, 5 elements slash. Boom! Boom! The 5-colored sword chi clashed with the black light, creating a series of explosions. All of a sudden, a figure dashed towards the Dark Beast Chief from the side. A sword slashed out, and as the sword slashed out, hundreds of flower petals fell. Time stood still. Crack! This sword slashed open a third of the Dark Beast Chief's skull, and black liquid splashed out. The Dark Beast Chief was stunned. It could feel the threat of death. At this critical moment, the Dark Beast Chief twisted its body and whipped its tail at Yi Chun, forcing Yi Chun to pull away. What happened next was beyond Yi Chun's expectations. The Dark Beast Chief gave up on fighting with Yi Chun and disappeared without a trace. Flesh and blood beings are flesh and blood beings after all. Their intelligence is much higher than energy beings. Yichen smiled. Rise. Holding the root of the dark lotus with his right hand, Yichen pulled it out with all his strength. The moment Yichen pulled out the dark lotus, the surrounding dark star river started to tremble. It was as if a giant water monster was wreaking havoc, destroying everything in its path. Under this majestic power, Yichen's heart started to palpitate. He couldn't care less about sealing the dark lotus anymore and fled. After an unknown period of time, the trembling behind him became smaller and smaller. Only then did Yichen stop. Raising the dark lotus, Yichen observed it carefully. He found that there were 7 lotus seeds on the lotus head. It was said that 9 lotus seeds was the highest grade of the dark lotus. 7 lotus seeds can increase 7,000 years of cultivation. If I find an alchemist emperor or an alchemist supreme to refine it, it's not impossible to increase it by 10,000 years. In the universe, the most precious profession was the alchemist profession. Only 1 in 1,000 eighth layer emperors was good at alchemy. An alchemist supreme was even rarer. At least, there wasn't a single alchemist supreme in the human race. However, there were some alchemists who were learning alchemy. After becoming alchemists, their lifespan would increase, and they could spare a part of their energy to do other things. After placing 49 seals on the dark lotus, Yichen finally managed to seal it, preventing its power from leaking out, and allowing it to be stored in his storage ring. Time to go. Opening his netherworld saint eye, Yichen's gaze pierced through the black water and landed in the boundless distance. It's this direction. Soon, Yichen found the closest edge of the dark star river. His figure flickered and disappeared without a trace. I'm finally out. What is this place? At the edge of the dark star river, Yichen looked around and frowned. He had never heard of this place before. Closing his eyes, a heart-shaking aura pervaded the air. At this moment, Yichen felt like an ordinary person who had arrived in a wild world filled with savage beasts. Chapter 1325. Mu. A huge bull-shaped beast flew across the starry sky. Judging from its aura, it was obviously an emperor-level beast. Squeak, squeak, squeak. But then, a group of vicious fishes with sharp teeth and wings on their backs flew over and devoured the bull-shaped beast without leaving any bones behind. The vicious fish's aura was also at the emperor level, but they were much weaker than the bull-shaped beast. However, there were too many of them. After devouring the bull-shaped beast, the evil fishes were still not satisfied. They pounced on Yichen. Yichen didn't counterattack, letting them gnaw on his body. Of course, the result was miserable. The fish's teeth all fell off. Grabbing one of them, Yichen released his soul power to study it. The structure of the evil fishes was very complicated. They had 3 small hearts. This should be a 3-hearted evil fish. If I'm not wrong, that bull-shaped beast is an eclipsing moon ancient bull. It likes to devour things. The moon also has energy, hence its name. The 3-hearted evil fish and the eclipsing moon ancient bull were both space beasts. No one knew how many there were. The difference between the beast race and space beasts was that one had intelligence no lower than humans, while the other had low intelligence and only knew how to kill. Yichen tried to tame the 3-hearted evil fish, but he found that as soon as he imprinted his soul mark on it, the fish's soul immediately scattered. He couldn't tame it at all. Come here. The 3-hearted evil fish was a delicacy. Yichen didn't want to let it go. He directly sealed their power and sent them to the 5 elements space he had created. Yichen's 5 elements space was many times more stable than willing old ancestors' 5 elements space. Swish. A river was created. Yichen put the 3-hearted evil fish inside. Eclipsing moon ancient bull. 3-hearted evil fish. Heaven fragrance giant snake. Rolling heart strange vegetables. Falling thunder whale. Black flame giant bird. Along the way, Yichen caught whatever he caught. The 5 elements space had almost turned into a nest of space beasts. Fortunately, the power of these space beasts had been sealed by Yichen. Even if they killed each other inside, the destruction would not be too great. Moreover, after losing their power, they would not be able to bite each other. There are so many delicacies here. It should be enough to make the barbarian supremes die of envy. The barbarian race loved meat the most. The meat that the barbarian supremes wanted to eat was naturally not ordinary meat. At the very least, it had to be the meat of an emperor-level starry sky beast. The meat of an emperor-level starry sky beast was the best. As for the supreme-level starry sky beast, no one was willing to eat it. While flying, Yi Chen used the netherworld sacred eye to look around. What? A metal planet? Suddenly, Yi Chen saw an azure metal planet. This metal planet was not big, but it was several thousand li in size. It was revolving in the starry sky, emitting a boundless azure radiance. Whoosh! With a teleport, Yi Chen arrived on the metal planet. Using his right hand as a knife, Yi Chen tried to dig out a piece of metal, but no matter how hard he tried, he only managed to grab some metal scraps. This is a supreme-grade metal? Yi Chen was incomparably surprised. Supreme-grade metal was an excellent material for forging supreme weapons. Only supreme-grade metal couldn't be destroyed by Yi Chen with his bare hands. Of course, this was because Yi Chen didn't use the sky sword, nor did he use any martial arts. Otherwise, a mere supreme-grade metal wouldn't be able to stop Yi Chen, unless it was forged into a supreme weapon. Right, I still haven't read that book about supreme-grade materials. Let's see if there's such a metal. The storage ring flickered, and a 7-colored book appeared in Yi Chen's hand. The book opened, and each page had a projection, introducing the color, hardness, effect, and other information of each material. Soon, Yi Chen found some useful information. Azure Star Iron, a 3rd-grade supreme-grade metal. Its color is azure, and its hardness is enough to block a super supreme-grade attack. It can be used as the main material to forge a 3rd-grade supreme-grade weapon, and can also be used as a supplementary material to forge a 4th-grade supreme-grade weapon. Supreme-grade weapons were divided into 5 grades, from the lowest to the highest: 1st grade, 2nd grade, 5th grade. The brilliant god sword that Yi Chen used before was a 2nd-grade supreme-grade sword. Similarly, supreme-grade materials were also divided into 5 grades. Whether it was the Human Race Alliance or the Demons Alliance, 3rd-grade supreme-grade weapons were extremely rare, and 4th-grade supreme-grade weapons were almost non-existent, not to mention 5th-grade supreme-grade weapons. It should be known that 4th-grade supreme-grade weapons were usually used by legendary supreme-grade martial artists, and 5th-grade supreme-grade weapons were used by demigods. As for saint-grade weapons, they were infused with divine stones, but not all supreme-grade weapons could be infused with divine stones. The minimum requirement for infusing divine stones was that the supreme-grade weapon had to be 3rd grade or above. Once a supreme-grade weapon below 3rd grade was infused with divine stones, it would immediately become useless. In simpler terms, the higher the grade of the supreme-grade weapon, the higher the success rate of infusing divine stones. For example, Yi Chen's sky sword was at least a 3rd-grade supreme-grade weapon before it became a saint-grade weapon. It might even be 4th grade or 5th grade. Of course, the possibility of it being 5th grade was quite low. Collect. After sealing the Azure Star Iron, Yi Chen directly stored it in his 5 elements space. As for the storage ring, its space was not that big. Unknowingly, Yi Chen arrived in the vicinity of a continent. This continent was floating in the sky, with a diameter of tens of billions of li. Waves of horrifying barbaric aura were emitted from this continent. Yi Chen wanted to see through the entire continent with his netherworld saint eye, but he soon discovered that this continent was shrouded in a mysterious power. His netherworld saint eye, which could see through boundless space, could only see a few thousand li. His soul power was even worse, only able to radiate out a few li. Should I go in? Yi Chen could feel that this continent was very dangerous, countless times more dangerous than the supreme secret realm. The unknown always contained too much danger. Perhaps it's an opportunity. After hesitating for a while, Yi Chen flew toward the continent. The moment he landed on the continent, Yi Chen felt the restriction of the rules. The rules greatly reduced his speed, the range of his soul power, and his destructive power. In short, Yi Chen felt a lot weaker on this continent. Even his immortal sword body was weakened. His overall strength might not even be comparable to an ordinary supreme, and was somewhere between a quasi-supreme and an ordinary supreme. The power of the rules surpassed everything, unless one could surpass the rules. Not good. Yichen discovered that he couldn't leave the continent. The higher he flew, the greater the pressure. He simply couldn't escape the restriction of the continent, just like ordinary people couldn't leave the planet, because they couldn't break free from the planet's restriction. Since he was already here, he might as well make the best of it. At this moment, regret was useless. Not to mention, Yichen didn't regret it at all. Exploration had always been risky. Things without risk meant that the harvest wouldn't be much either. Flying leisurely, Yichen headed toward the depths of the continent. After flying for an unknown number of days, Yichen saw a small village with his netherworld saint eye. There were only 100 families in the village. Chapter 1326. When Yichen was less than 3 miles away from the small village, a group of strong villagers, wearing all kinds of armor, rushed out with a group of fierce hunting dogs. Woo 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 woo. These hounds were not ordinary domestic dogs. The leading hound was a large dog that was even stronger than a black bear. Its fur was brown and yellow, and when it growled, its neat and fierce teeth were revealed. Upon closer inspection, one could see that its pupils were 6-pointed stars, and there was a hint of wildness in its nobility. The hounds behind it were a bit smaller, and their auras were not as fierce as the large hounds. However, judging from their auras, they all had the aura of a high-level, or even a top-level emperor, while the large hound had the aura of a supreme being. Astral Bear Dog, Royal Hunting Dog. Yichen exclaimed in surprise. He would never have imagined that there would be a Star Bear Hound and a group of Royal Hunting Hounds in a small village. Canine-type ferocious beasts were one of the few ferocious beasts that could be tamed. Usually, it was considered lucky to see a single Royal Hunting Hound. The probability of seeing a group of them was so low that it was negligible. As for the Star Bear Hound, it was even rarer. In the Human Race Alliance, only the barbarian race had Star Bear Hounds. Who are you? The villagers looked similar to barbarians, but there were still some slight differences. Their pupils had a cross shape, and their teeth were finer and sharper. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man wielding a sharp spear. His aura was powerful, and he was clearly a sovereign. Beside him was that lofty and incomparably ferocious Starry Bear Hound. I am Yichen and I wandered here. Yichen sized up the villagers and replied. An outsider? A villager asked. Yichen did not hide it. Yes. Village chief, he is an outsider. You can let him join our great Gale village. Hearing Yichen say that he was an outsider, the villagers' eyes lit up. In the Wilderness God continent, there were only the desolate race and beasts. But occasionally, outsiders would come to the Wilderness God continent. These outsiders were powerful, and the weakest was a powerful sovereign. The middle-aged man with a sharp spear nodded. Are you willing to join the Great Gale village? Yichen pondered for a moment. I can temporarily join the Great Wind village, but when I want to leave, you can't stop me. Now that he knew nothing about this mainland, it was good to go to the Great Wind village to understand the situation. All right, but the minimum time limit is 3 months. There were more than 100 families, and more than 300 people in Gale village. The houses in the village were different from the style of the outside world. Instead, they had a very primitive house structure. They looked round but not round, square but not square. In the village, the ground was paved with large gray-blue stones. Yichen stepped a little harder, and found that the hardness of the stones was very exaggerated. It was estimated that even the top emperor level could not damage it. Once they entered the village, a lot of villagers followed them out of curiosity. There were also a lot of kids. Although they were kids, their cultivation bases were incomprehensible. Even the lowest among them was at the astral reaching realm. Could it be that these kids had been training since they were in their mother's wombs? Puzzled, Yichen arrived at the temple in the center of the village. In the Wilderness God continent, you have to make an oath to join the village. Now, you have to make an oath in front of the desolate God crystal. The content can be, the village had said to Yichen. Yichen thought for a moment, and felt that there were no loopholes. Then he said loudly to the desolate God crystal in the temple, I, Yichen, will join the Great Wind village from now on. The minimum time limit is 3 months. During this time, Brother Yichen, welcome to the Great Wind village. My name is Feng Lai, the village head. After Yi Chen made the oath, Feng Lai let out a sigh of relief and said with a smile, after living in the Great Wind Village for 3 days, Yi Chen completely knew what kind of continent this was. The continent's name was Wilderness God Continent. According to the records, it was a continent created by the desolate god. What covered the continent was not the natural law, but the desolate god's law. In other words, anyone below the true god level could not violate the desolate god's law. Living in the Wilderness God Continent were the desolate race and the beasts. The desolate race had the bloodline of the desolate god. The people of the desolate race were born with the cultivation base of the astral reaching realm. As they grew older, their cultivation base would increase rapidly. Normally, they would automatically become life and death realm warriors when they reached adulthood. After that, they would have to rely on themselves to train seriously. This was also why the lowest cultivation base of the kids in the Great Wind Village was the astral reaching realm. In the desolate God Continent, there were tens of thousands of villages. Small villages only had dozens of families, while big villages had almost 1,000 families. Once there were more than 1,000 families, they would become tribes. Between 1,000 and 2,000 families, they would become rank 1 tribes, 2,000 to 5,000 families, 5,000 to 10,000 families, 4,000 to 20,000 families, and so on. There was a very strange law in the desolate God Continent. No matter who it was, they had to eat meat. Otherwise, their strength would decline very quickly. In the outside world, there was no need to eat at all. The reason why they ate was just to enjoy delicious food, which was dispensable. Therefore, there would often be wars between villages in order to conquer each other. After all, the more people there was, the more meat they could hunt. If the population was small, sometimes they would have to starve. In the desolate God Continent, outsiders were very popular. Even in the tribes, outsiders would be treated very well. The main reason was that outsiders who came to the desolate God Continent were basically powerful supremes, or even super supremes. Moreover, their martial arts were especially powerful. Experts were welcomed everywhere. This was something recognized by the laws of the desolate God Continent. As a new member of the Great Wind Village, Yi Chen was naturally assigned a house. This house had been vacant for a long time, and it was covered with dust. Fortunately, he would only live here for 3 months. Yi Chen was too lazy to build a new house. Building a house here required a lot of energy. The soil and stones of the desolate God Continent were extremely hard. Lying on the recliner outside the house, Yi Chen looked up at the sun. It had been a long time since he had enjoyed the scenery so leisurely. Yi Chen felt that his mood was much calmer. Turning his head, Yi Chen saw a little girl staring at him from the corner of the house. Yi Chen waved at her. The little girl walked over carefully. "I heard that you are an outsider?" "Yes, what's your name?" "My name is Feng Na." All the people of the Great Wind Village had the surname Feng. Feng Na, a very nice name. Yi Chen smiled and took out 2 3-hearted evil fish from the 5 elements space. "Do you want to eat barbecue? I'll treat you." Feng Na swallowed her saliva. There were more than 300 people in the Great Wind Village, but there were only dozens of people with real battling power. A part of them had to stay in the village, while the others could go out to hunt. However, normally, each family could only get a little bit of prey. The ones who contributed more would get more, and no one could refuse meat. The smell of barbecue filled the air as Feng Na wolfed down the food. Yi Chen also ate a little bit. On the desolate God Continent, he felt the hunger that he had not felt for a long time. 1 3-hearted evil fish contained way too much power. Feng Na had only eaten 1% of it, and she was already full. After all, her cultivation was only at the early sea of Soul's realm, and it was impossible for her to be like Yi Chen, who could just eat a little bit and fill up half of it. "Can I take the rest?" Feng Na pointed at the remaining 3-hearted evil fish she had eaten. "Sure." Yi Chen nodded. "Thank you for the treat." Feng Na happily took the rest of the 3-hearted evil fish back. There would be more updates at night. Chapter 1327. Another 5 days passed in a flash. On this day, a group of people returned from the mountains outside of the village. "The hunting team is back. Yay! There is meat to eat again." The kids cheered as they rushed out of the village. In every village, there would be a hunting team. Their mission was to go deep into the mountains to hunt down the beasts. Large villages would have more than 2 hunting teams. The Great Wind Village only had 100 families, and only dozens of people had fighting power. Therefore, there would only be 1 hunting team. Therefore, everyone would have to wait for the hunting team to come back. Sometimes it would be half a month, and sometimes it would be 1 or 2 months. This period of time was the most torturous for everyone. The leader of the hunter squad, Feng Dachuan, was tall and sturdy. He had a domineering and awe-inspiring aura. Just like Feng Lai, he was also a supreme being. The Great Wind Village had a total of 3 supreme beings. One was the current village chief, one was the old village chief, and the last one was the leader of the hunter squad. Behind Feng Dachuan was a black hunting dog. It was a supreme level beast, the Black Wind Tyrant dog. In terms of value, it was only a bit weaker than the Sky Bear dog. Feng Lai brought the villagers out to greet them. Looking at the hunting team, and seeing that there were still people, he asked, "It should be smooth this time, right? You guys are back so soon." The hunting team had gone out half a month ago. Feng Dachuan patted his chest and laughed. "Our luck is not bad. None of them died. With me, Feng Dachuan, there is nothing to be afraid of. As long as they are not dead. How was the harvest?" Besides the casualties, Feng Lai was most concerned about the harvest. If the harvest was not good, then he would have to tighten his belt. But if the harvest was good, then he would be able to last for a long time without having to worry about not having enough meat to eat. "I told you, our luck is not bad. Look." The storage ring on Feng Dachuan's finger flashed with a dim light, and countless beast corpses appeared on the village road. These beasts chi ranged from the 1st to the 8th sky of life and death realm. There were 58 of them in total. The wild god continent was not the same as the outside world. Their bodies were all very small. For example, Yi Chen's body could only maintain a height of 180 meters. The Sky Bear dog and the Black Wind Tyrant dog were also only 1.5 meters tall. Therefore, among the 58 beast corpses, the biggest was only a dozen meters long, which was a python. Alright, with so many dire beast corpses, it should be enough to last us for a month. The more powerful one's cultivation base was, the more meat one could eat. For example, a supreme expert could eat a huge amount of meat in a single meal. Moreover, it had to be the meat of a beast at, or above the 7th layer of life and death realm. Below the supreme realm, even 100 emperors couldn't compare to a single supreme. As a member of the Great Gale Village, Yi Chen also had the right to get some meat, but he didn't want it. There were too many ominous beasts in the 5 elements space, and all of them were emperor-level ominous beasts. It was enough for Yi Chen to eat for hundreds of years. Of course, he wasn't obligated to give his ominous beasts to the Great Gale Village. First, he didn't owe the Great Gale Village anything. Second, he could see that in the wilderness god continent, one must have meat to eat. Although there were many ominous beasts in the 5 elements space, he wouldn't give them for free. "Feng Na, where did your family get the 3-hearted evil fish? If you have it, why didn't you offer it up?" Suddenly, a shout came from the village. It was Feng Dachuan's voice. Feng Na's sobbing soon followed. "What happened?" Yi Chen heard the voice and walked over. "Big brother Yi Chen." Seeing Yi Chen, Feng Na said in an aggrieved tone. "What happened?" Yi Chen asked. It turned out that Yi Chen had given Feng Na a 3-hearted evil fish last time. Feng Na ate 1% of it, and gave the rest to her parents. In the following days, Feng Na didn't eat a single bite of meat. She only felt that she wasn't hungry at all, and her whole body was full of energy. She immediately knew that the meat Yi Chen gave her was not ordinary meat. Of course, she didn't think that it was an emperor-level vicious beast. Out of her childish nature, Feng Na secretly took some of the 3-hearted evil fish's meat for her other companions to eat. Among them were Feng Dachuan's children. After Feng Dachuan found out about this, he came to question them. It must be known that in the village, only supremes could eat the meat of emperor-level vicious beasts. The others weren't qualified to eat it. This wasn't hegemony, because supremes wanted to maintain their power, so they had to eat the meat of high-level vicious beasts. After knowing the whole story, Yi Chen said to Feng Dachuan, I was the one who gave her the three-hearted evil fish. Let's forget about this matter. Yichen wouldn't dislike the Great Wind Village's rules because of this. However, Feng Dachuan's attitude toward Feng Na made him a bit unhappy. Feng Na's parents were only normal life and death realm warriors. Under Feng Dachuan's yelling, they were shaking uncontrollably. They actually didn't know that it was a three-hearted evil fish, an emperor-level vicious beast. Outsiders, this is our Great Wind Village's rule. No one can violate it. Feng Dachuan frowned. He was still a bit scared of outsiders. Then what do you want? Yichen asked. According to the Great Wind Village's rule, anyone who violates it will be locked in a dark room for a month. Someone, take Feng Mu's entire family away. Feng Dachuan waved his hand and ordered. Wait, Yichen's face was a bit gloomy. This is my fault. If I knew about the Great Wind Village's rule, I wouldn't have given her the three-hearted evil fish. Since it was her first offense, a verbal punishment would have been enough. Why do you have to be so serious? Yichen didn't want to break the Great Wind Village's rule. No. Feng Dachuan was used to being a tyrant in the Great Wind Village. His words and actions were swift and decisive, and no one would dare to disobey him. Only Feng Lai and the old village head could talk to him. Don't go too far. Yichen said coldly. Outsiders, although you have joined the Great Wind Village, you have to know that as a member of the Great Wind Village, you cannot disobey the orders of the village head and the leader of the hunting team. How dare you? After all, outsiders were a legend, and this was the first time Feng Dachuan had met an outsider. The wilderness god continent was extremely vast, and even if there were outsiders here, there would only be a few of them. How could Great Wind Village have the chance to meet one? Thus, although he was wary of outsiders, he was not afraid of them, especially when his prestige was challenged. I remember that in the oath, there was only one rule about not killing the people of the Great Wind Village. It did not say anything about not disobeying. If there was such a rule, Yichen would not have made the oath. He was not an idiot. Brother Yichen, it is my fault. Don't worry about it. At this time, Feng Na suddenly said. Yichen shook his head. I only do things with a clear conscience. Whoever dares to take her away today, don't blame me for turning against you. You dare. Feng Dachuan's voice was low. Roar. The Black Wind Tyrant Hound beside Feng Dachuan suddenly jumped, pouncing at Yichen. Ah! Many people screamed in shock. The strength of the Black Wind Tyrant Hound was obvious to all. This was a supreme-level fierce beast with a fierce and cruel personality. Ordinary supreme beings would take a detour if they encountered a Black Wind Tyrant Hound. Woo woo woo. However, the next second, everyone was shocked. The powerful Black Wind Tyrant dog had its mouth covered by Yichen's hand and was lifted up into the air. Its four legs were struggling, looking like a little puppy, looking very pitiful. Chapter 13:28. Bang! With a casual fling, the Black Wind Tyrant Hound was thrown out of the village. When it ran back into the village, it no longer dared to be presumptuous towards Yichen. As a ferocious beast, although its intelligence was not high, it could still sense the gap between them. When Yichen pinched its mouth, that terrifying power was like a vast ocean. Any explosion could probably crush it to death. Yichen's eyes swept across the crowd, and finally landed on Feng Dachuan. He said word by word. With my strength, it is not difficult to sweep the Great Gale Village. You are not my opponent. You. Feng Dachuan glared. Enough, Dachuan. This matter is indeed not Feng Na's fault. Why make things difficult for her? Feng Na, this is a lesson. You should know the rules of the Great Gale Village. At this moment, Feng Lai walked over with the Starry Sky Bear Hound. The Starry Sky Bear Hound licked the fur of the Black Wind Tyrant Hound and looked at Yichen with fear. Yes, village chief. Feng Na lowered her head and said, rubbing Feng Na's head. Feng Lai said to Yichen apologetically, Brother Yichen, Dachuan is not a bad person. He is just a little inflexible. I hope you don't mind. Although Yichen's words were arrogant, Feng Lai was not angry. Instead, he was a little happy. Although the Black Wind Tyrant Hound only had the strength of a normal supreme being, this was the Huang God continent. Under the cover of the Huang God's law, the gap between supreme beings had shrunk a lot. Yi Chen could easily subdue the Black Wind Tyrant Hound, which meant that he was much stronger than he had imagined. I won't mind. I just hope that the rules of the Great Gale Village will be more humane, Yi Chen said. That is for sure. After saying that, Feng Lai looked at Feng Dachuan with a look of reproach. The Great Gale Village's rules were actually not that strict. They did not care about human feelings at all. This time, most of the fault was on Feng Dachuan's shoulders. It seemed like he needed to be taught a lesson. Feng Dachuan's face alternated between green and white. Originally, he had wanted to consolidate his prestige and not take even half a step back when facing the people from the outside world. But now, the result was the complete opposite. His prestige had fallen to the ground. No matter where one was, the rule of the strong was an unchanging truth. He could berate Feng Na and his family, but he didn't dare to berate Yi Chen. Just now, Yi Chen had easily restrained the Black Wind Tyrant Hound with his powerful strength, and it had left a lingering fear in his heart. A week had passed since the three-hearted evil fish incident. In the chief's yard, Feng Lai, the old chief, Feng Dachuan, and Yi Chen were chatting while eating barbecued meat. The meat was provided by Yi Chen. The eclipsing moon ancient cow's meat is really good. This kind of meat is usually only eaten by the tribe's supremes. Feng Lai took a large piece of beef and ate it in big bites. The old chief nodded. The tribe has a large population and a lot of fighting power. We can organize 2 or 3 hunting teams to take turns to enter the mountain. Our Great Gale Village will be satisfied with just enough food and clothing. Listening to the contents of the two's conversation, Yi Chen's heart was moved. He thought, why don't we help the Great Gale Village and let it become a tribe? The stronger the Great Gale Village is, the more help it will be to me. I help the Great Gale Village, and then the Great Gale Village will help me. This Huangshan continent is so vast. There must be a place for the Great Gale Village. Brother Yi Chen, come, let me toast you. What happened last time was my fault. I hope you can forgive me. Feng Dachuan raised his wine cup and toasted Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled and said, we are all supremes, let the past be the past. What is in front of us now is the future. The old ginger was still spicier. The old chief could hear the hidden meaning in Yi Chen's words, so he couldn't help but ask, what is the future? Yi Chen looked at the three of them and went straight to the point. Do you want the Great Gale Village to become a tribe? Let the Great Gale Village become a tribe? Feng Lai's eyes lit up, but they quickly dimmed. A first-ranked tribe needs 1,000 to 2,000 households, and at least 7 or 8 villages have to be conquered. This is not an easy matter. Feng Dachuan also said, the bigger the village, the more supremes there are. The Purple Thunder Village, which is the closest to us, has 200 households and 5 supremes. We should thank the heavens if they don't find trouble with us. In the Huangshan continent, no one was willing to be conquered, because if they were conquered, their status would not be as high when they went to someone else's territory. The old chief's understanding of Yi Chen's words was obviously higher than Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan. He hesitated and said, little brother Yi, do you want our Great Gale Village to become a tribe? Yes. Yi Chen nodded. Hearing this, Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan finally recovered. If they had Yi Chen's help, it was possible for the Great Gale Village to become a first-ranked tribe. However, they did not know what level Yi Chen's strength was. Great, with little brother Ye's help, the rise of our Great Gale Village is just around the corner. Come, cheers. The old chief did not look old, and he looked to be in his 60s. In the Great Gale Village, the old chief was the #1 expert, and he was stronger than Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan. At this moment he held his cup and stood up. Cheers! Cheers! The 4 of them stood up and toasted. Sometimes, plans could not keep up with changes. Just as the Great Gale Village was about to attack the Purple Thunder Village, the Purple Thunder Village attacked the Great Gale Village first. Outside the Great Gale Village, there were 60 to 70 people gathered. The 5 people leading them were all supremes. The purple-haired old man in the middle shouted, Feng Baixiong, come out and surrender. Feng Baixiong was the old chief's name. Lei Haotian, you are really bold. Do you think there is no one in my Great Gale Village? The old chief led 30 to 40 people out of the village. Whether it was the outside world or the Huangshan continent, the higher one's cultivation base, the harder it was to give birth. In the Huangshan continent, the difficulty of giving birth was 100 times higher than in the outside world. This made it very difficult for the population to develop. However, there were quite a lot of experts. In an ordinary village, 1/10 of them had a cultivation base of life and death 7th layer or above. These people were known as members with battle prowess. The others were usually not allowed to leave the village. Just these few people, and you have the nerve to send them out? The purple-haired old man laughed heartily. Battle prowess does not depend on numbers, but also on quality. The old chief said meaningfully, "Quality? Haha, then let me see your quality." The purple-haired old man's aura burst out. Battles between villages mainly depended on the Supreme's victory. If the Supremes on both sides were evenly matched, then the outcome would depend on the people below. Everyone be careful. The old chief was quite confident. Although they only had 4 Supremes on their side, in his opinion, Yichen alone could fight against 2 or 3 of them. It's been a long time since we had a big battle. Feng Dachuan licked his lips. You don't need to do anything. It's too much of a waste of time. Yichen stopped the 3. Little brother Yi, what are you doing? The old chief was confused. Yichen said, I alone am enough. It was not that Yichen was arrogant, but he really did not put the Purple Thunder Village in his eyes. Conquering the Purple Thunder Village, as soon as possible, and building a bigger village was his top priority. After saying these words, Yichen walked out step by step and raised his head. You 5 come at me together. Arrogant. I lay you will teach you a lesson. A middle-aged man from the Purple Thunder Village pounced at Yichen, with a mace in his hand. As he waved the mace, his aura seemed to be able to split heaven and earth. Chapter 1329. Lei Yu was the 4th strongest in the Purple Thunder Village, but in terms of toughness, he was ranked 2nd. This was because his body's defense was extremely strong. The Desolate race placed a lot of emphasis on training their bodies. Whoever had a stronger defense would have an advantage. Ha! Lei Yu raised his mace with both hands and swung it down crazily. Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan's eyebrows twitched. If they were in Yichen's shoes, they would definitely dodge. But Yichen's action shocked everyone. He stretched out his right hand and easily blocked the mace. The spikes on the mace didn't even pierce through the skin of Yichen's palm. Get lost! Yichen waved his hand, and the mace bounced back, landing on Lei Yu's head. Blood started to flow out of his mouth, as he was blown thousands of meters away. Who else wants to fight? Yichen looked at the purple-haired old man. Little brother, who are you? I don't remember you in the Great Wind Village. The purple-haired old man Lei Haotian said seriously. According to you, I am an outsider. Yichen said lightly. An outsider? Everyone's complexion changed. There were too many legends about the outsiders. It was said that many tribes weren't tribes in the past, and relied on outsiders to rise. Although not every outsider was as powerful as them, the strength of outsiders was still widely spread. Hearing Yichen say that he was an outsider, the Purple Thunder Village's sovereign felt bitter in his heart. Soon after, he felt a trace of jealousy. Why didn't our Purple Thunder Village meet outsiders? Little brother, with your power, joining the Great Wind Village is a waste of your talent. Why don't you join our Purple Thunder Village? I can guarantee that other than being the village head in name, you will have the same power as the village head. The purple-haired old man wanted to poach Yichen. If they fought, the Purple Thunder Village might not be Yichen's match. Oh, the conditions are very good. Yichen smiled. Little brother Yi, whatever the Purple Thunder Village is willing to offer, we the Great Wind Village are also willing to offer. Plus, if you have any other ideas, just tell us. The old village leader was anxious. Once Yichen left, their Great Wind Village would definitely be conquered by the Purple Thunder Village. Feng Baixiong, water flows downwards and people strive to climb higher. What you are doing is not kind. The purple-haired old man coldly snorted. Little brother Yi. The old village head looked at Yichen eagerly. On the other side, the purple-haired old man said expectantly, What do you think? Yichen shook his head and said, There's no rush. Let's defeat you first. The purple-haired old man's face turned cold. You're not going to reconsider? Today it's your Violet Thunder village that invited me. Tomorrow it'll be an even bigger village that invited me, or even a first-grade tribe. What do you think I should do? I, Yi Chun, am not a fickle person. In fact, Yi Chun had bigger considerations. Although Gale Village's influence was very small, Gale Village at least relied on him. If it was a tribe, Yi Chun's reputation would not be comparable to that of a tribe's chief, even if he worked himself to the bone. He believed that most of the people who came to the Wilderness God continent before had the same idea as him. They wanted to help a weak village grow into a tribe step by step. That way they would have more control. If that's the case, then I'll offend you. Let's attack together. The purple-haired old man was not an inflexible person. Since Yi Chun had asked them to attack together, there was no need for them to be polite. The four supremes attacked Yi Chun from 4 different directions. For different domains covered the space where Yi Chun was. At this moment, even if the old village head and the other 2 wanted to intervene, it would be difficult. The domains are too weak. Yi Chun could see that the desolate race focused on body tempering, so they were much weaker in terms of domains. Just like the body tempering kings in the outside world, domains were their weakness. The sword domain, which had been activated by the sword Yuan, burst out fiercely, instantly turning semi-tangible. When the 4 great domains clashed with the sword domain remained unmoved, while the 4 great domains began to shake. Fighting 1 against 4, Yi Chun had the absolute upper hand. The faces of the 4 Purple Thunder Village Supremes changed several times. Eat my yin-yang blade. Thunder strike. 4-directional thunder kick. Dominating sky axe. The 4 Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village each used their own killing moves. They didn't believe that Yi Chun could fight against the 4 of them by himself. Dang! 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 Sparks flew everywhere. Everyone was dumbfounded. The killing moves of the Purple Thunder Village's 4 Supremes landed on Yi Chun's body, but they couldn't even leave a scratch on Yi Chun's skin. Sparks flew everywhere, shaking the palms of their hands until they were numb and bleeding. On the other hand, Yi Chun didn't even crease his brows, as if it was just a light breeze, not worth mentioning. Swish! Stretching out his right hand, Yi Chun instantly grabbed the neck of a Supreme's. He exerted strength in his hand, causing the Supreme's face to turn red. No matter how he struggled, it was useless. Do you still want to fight? Yi Chun said with a slightly domineering tone. Not anymore. The purple-haired old man was disappointed. How could they fight? The opponent's defense was too high. They could not break it at all. If they continued, they would only be humiliating themselves. Throwing away the Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village, Yi Chun said, "You guys join the Great Wind Village. Discuss the details with the old village chief." Just like this, the Great Wind Village conquered the Purple Thunder Village. The population of the village increased from more than 100 households to more than 300 households, nearly 1,000 people. In the following month, the Great Wind Village was unstoppable, conquering one village after another. Ironstone Village, Doublewood Village, Blackwater Village, Gaoshan Village. Finally, the population of the Great Wind Village exceeded 1,000 households and was qualified to be named a tribe. Little brother Yi, what do you think the name of our tribe should be? In the village that had expanded 10 times, the old village chief looked excited. In just a month, the Great Wind Village became a first-class tribe. This was simply a miracle. Of course, the biggest contributor was Yi Chun. Without Yi Chun's powerful force, they could not even conquer the Purple Thunder Village. Instead, they would be conquered by the other party. Old Village Chief. Of course it should be called the Gale Tribe. Feng Dachuan quickly said. The old village chief glared at Feng Dachuan. He also wanted the tribe to be called the Gale Tribe, but this tribe was conquered by Yi Chun. Yi Chun had the right to name it. They did not want to part ways with Yi Chun. Yi Chun promised them that they could stay in the Great Wind Village for a few more days. At the conference table, the Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village, Ironstone Village, Doublewood Village, Blackwater Village, and other villages had bitter expressions. After joining the Great Wind Village, their status was lower than the Supremes of the Great Wind Village. They had a certain right to speak, but the effect of their words was minimal. Yi Chun said, It's not appropriate to call it the Gale tribe. Why? The old village chief was puzzled. Yichen looked at the other supremes and said to the old village chief, "The Great Wind Village is getting stronger and stronger. But the original population of the Great Wind Village is too small. There are also few supremes. I can convince the others if I am here. But what if I am not here?" Old village chief, what Brother Yichen said is reasonable. On the side, Feng Lai nodded. The old village chief thought for a moment and felt that it was reasonable. The Great Wind Village relied on Yichen to become a tribe. If Yichen was not here, the others would not dare to disobey him because of the oath. But his control was also limited. Once the other tribes attacked, this delicate situation was very dangerous. A first-class tribe is not our ultimate goal. I think the name of the tribe can be called the Eternal Tribe. The most powerful person in the Eternal Tribe is the chief, followed by the elders, the leader of the hunting team, and so on. The chief will be the old village chief. The old village chief was still very strong. Apart from Yi Chen, among the supremes, he was at least in the top 3. It was a bit inappropriate to let Feng Lai be the chief. After all, this was a tribe, not a village. As for the name Eternal Tribe, the supremes of the other villages accepted it more easily. In any case, they had become elders and had a lot of power. In the past, they were just thugs. Chapter 1330. The Eternal Tribe had a population of 3,500 people and 1,050 families. The leader was Feng Baixiong and the Eternal Venerable Yi Chen. Below him were the elders and the leader of the hunting squad. Of course, the Eternal Tribe was still in its embryonic form. Once the tribe became more powerful, other positions would be added. As an Eternal Venerable, Yi Chen's authority was equal to Feng Baixiong's, perhaps even a bit higher. The leader had to take care of a lot of matters, while Yi Chen didn't have to be so troublesome. The hunting squad is back. So much meat. The Eternal Tribe was prospering day by day, and the tribesmen naturally didn't have to worry about not having meat to eat. At present, the Eternal Tribe had a total of 8 hunting squads, taking turns to enter the mountains. Once the first squad returned, the next one would immediately set off. This way, even if they encountered an enemy attack, they would still have the greatest fighting strength. "Old Chief, the Eternal Tribe is too remote. It's time to migrate." Yi Chen still liked to call Feng Baixiong Old Chief. Feng Baixiong nodded. "Yeah, there are no more villages around. It's time to migrate." Migration was very simple. They only needed to store the buildings in the village into their storage rings. The Wild's God continent was enveloped by the Wild's God's laws, and everything was shrouded in mist. It was extremely difficult to draw a map, and it took them an entire month to find an ideal place to live. Fortunately, the villages had stockpiled meat, and they had not stopped eating meat for the past month. Mountains and rivers. It's here. What entered everyone's eyes was a mountain range and a huge lake. The mountain range was vast, and the lake was crystal clear. The Eternal Tribe would certainly prosper here. Dong, dong. Houses fell one after another, spreading out in a ring shape. The entire Eternal Tribe was like a ring. Soon after, the Supremes joined hands to arrange a formation. The reason why the tribe was powerful was because of the many Supremes and the formations they arranged. It would be difficult for enemies to break in, and the tribesmen could safely reproduce inside. From now on, this will be our new home. Feng Baixiong sighed with emotion. The other Supremes also sighed with emotion. Although they had been conquered by the Great Wind Village, and were now elders or leaders of the Eternal Tribe, no matter what, a tribe was a tribe. As a member of the tribe, their fate was closely related to the tribe. They were bound together for good or bad. The arrays that Yi Chen had set up were the Immortal Sword Array and Destruction Sword Array. Although he wasn't proficient in arrays, the Immortal Sword Intent and Destruction Sword Intent were too powerful. A sword array that contained the Immortal Sword Intent and Destruction Sword Intent would be able to block a Super Sovereign for a while. Anyone below the Super Sovereign realm would be severely injured even if they didn't die. The formation did not restrict the people of the Eternal Tribe. They could enter and leave at will. This was the power of the oath. The Eternal Tribe was surrounded by mountains and rivers, which meant that in the future, there would be not only land meat to eat, but also aquatic meat to eat. The more the people of the Eternal Tribe looked at it, the more they liked it, and soon they forgot the melancholy of leaving the place where they grew up. In the Eternal Tribe, the sounds of laughter could be heard every day, and the figures of children could be seen everywhere. Outside the tribe, a hunting team was hunting aquatic beasts in the lake, while another hunting team was in the mountains, hunting terrestrial beasts. Yi Chen had a clear plan for the tribe's development. It was very simple, and that was to accumulate food. Only with more meat would the tribe's development not be limited. The fertility of the desolate race was also related to the meat they ate. Being full for one meal and hungry for another made it hard for them to give birth. This was because once there was no meat to eat, their strength would decline. And once their strength declined, where would they have extra yuan qi to reproduce? It should be known that the desolate race's people were born with astral reaching, or even Sea of Soul realm cultivation base, which consumed a lot of yuan qi. Hunting geese all day long, there would be a time when geese would peck you blind. The second hunter squad that entered the mountains had met with a mishap. Dozens of Emperor Realm warriors and 2 Supreme Realm warriors had died. The specific situation was that on the 12th day, the second hunter squad encountered a space bear dog. The leader of the second hunter squad cared a lot about the space bear dog and wanted to tame one. Therefore, he ignored the others' advice and risked everything to hunt the space bear dog. Who knew that this space bear dog was not a normal one, but an extremely rare space bear dog king, possessing the bloodline of the space bear dog. After being enraged, the space bear dog king went on a killing spree, killing the second hunter squad's leader and dozens of Emperor Realm warriors. If it were not for the fact that the space bear dog king was not as murderous as the other beasts, the second hunter squad might have been completely wiped out. Space bear dog king? This time, I'll lead the team. You guys lead the way. Yi Chen's interest was piqued. He had always wanted a space bear dog, and now that a space bear dog king had appeared, he naturally wouldn't let it go. He prepared to let the lucky survivors of the second hunter squad lead the way. Sir, you can't, it's too dangerous. A supreme being tried to dissuade him. The space bear dog king was equivalent to a supreme being, and its physical defense was extremely strong. It was not something an ordinary space bear dog could compare to. If something were to happen to Yi Chen, their eternal tribe's future would not be as good as before, and they might even be conquered by other tribes after a period of time. There's no need to stop me, I know what I'm doing. Yi Chen had already made up his mind. Since that's the case, it's better for Sir to be careful. Feng Baixiong knew Yi Chen's personality. If he continued to stop him, he would only make him unhappy. The next day, Yi Chen led the remaining members of the second hunter squad and set off. In the mountains, clouds and smoke lingered, and the range of soul power was only a few miles. Fortunately, Yi Chen had the netherworld Saint Eye, which allowed him to see a few thousand miles away. Sir, it's this direction. A member of the second hunter squad pointed to the front. After 3 days, Yi Chen and the others arrived at the place where the space bear dog king appeared. It's here. The members of the second hunter squad were a little nervous. They looked around, afraid that the space bear dog king would suddenly appear. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Yi Chen patted the shoulder of one of them. Standing at a high place, Yi Chen looked around. Suddenly Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Originally, he thought that the space bear dog king should have left this place. He didn't expect to find its lair 800 miles away. The space bear dog king was very sensitive. It seemed to have discovered something and jumped out of its lair. However, no matter how sharp its eyes were, it couldn't detect anything strange. Shaking its head, the space bear dog king went back to its lair to sleep. Not long after, Yi Chen and the others arrived at the outside of its lair. Roar! The space bear dog king jumped out. It was much taller than the normal space bear dogs, as tall as a human. Its brownish-yellow fur was luxuriant and had a metallic luster. On its forehead, there was a shallow golden mark. If one didn't look carefully, it would be hard to notice the existence of the golden mark. It was normal that the leader of the second hunter squad didn't notice it. Its hexagram eyes glanced at Yi Chun. The Space Bear Dog King lowered its body and growled, preparing to launch a fierce attack at any time. What a great Space Bear Dog King. One of you is better than 100 Space Bear Dogs. Yi Chun laughed and walked towards the Space Bear Dog King. A strong wind swept across. The Space Bear Dog King made the first move and pounced towards Yi Chun. Its sharp claws expanded in the air, reaching 5 feet long. The leader and deputy leader of the second hunter squad were torn to pieces by its claws. Chapter 1331. If Yi Chun was just a beginner-level sovereign, he would definitely retreat when facing the pounce of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Ferocious beasts and intelligent life forms were different. Their every move contained the mysteries of the heavens. Many supreme martial arts were created based on ferocious beasts. However, Yi Chun wasn't a beginner-level sovereign. Even without the Sky Sword, Yi Chun still had the strength of a medium-level sovereign. In addition to the immortal sword physique that could block the attacks of a peak-level sovereign, there was no need to fear the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Clang! Raising his hand, Yi Chun blocked the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Yi Chun's hands were comparable to sovereign weapons. They were unimaginably sturdy. Roar! The Starry Sky Bear Dog King's claw missed, so it stretched its neck and bit towards Yi Chun's neck like lightning. Each of its sharp teeth was half a foot long, especially the 2 pairs of fangs. They were 8 inches long and flashed with a cold light. If one was bitten, even a normal sovereign weapon would have a few bite marks. Although Yi Chun wasn't afraid of the opponent's bite, he wasn't willing to be bitten on the neck. With a kick, the Starry Sky Bear Dog King was kicked tens of meters away. Swish! Without giving the opponent a chance to react, Yi Chun took a step forward and instantly rode on the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. His left hand grabbed onto the opponent's fur, and his right hand clenched into a fist. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King felt dizzy. These 2 punches from Yi Chun didn't contain any ordinary force, but the terrifying 6 drive. 4 drive could normally shatter atoms, 5 drive could shatter neutrons, and 6 drive could shatter black holes. Of course, black holes came in all sizes. Against a large black hole, even Yi Chun couldn't do anything. The pain from the beating stimulated the Starry Sky Bear Dog King's ferocious nature. Exerting force from its 4 limbs, the Starry Sky Bear Dog King suddenly stood up and sent Yi Chun flying. As expected of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, Yi Chun estimated that the Starry Sky Bear Dog King's strength was roughly equivalent to a medium-level sovereign. Even a high-level sovereign wouldn't be able to subdue it. One had to be 2 levels higher. The supremacy is too strong. He's actually suppressing the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. We have underestimated the Venerable One. As an outsider, the Venerable One definitely has many tricks up his sleeves. We can't see through him. The members of Hunter Team 2 discussed among themselves. Looks like I'll have to take out the Heaven Sword. Dusting off the dust on his clothes, Yi Chun placed his right hand on the hilt of the Heaven Sword. Chong! The Heaven Sword was pulled out, and a peerless sword chi shot out. The fur of the Space Bear Dog King stood up as it felt an intense threat. Whoosh! Out of everyone's expectations, the Starry Sky Bear Dog King turned around and fled at lightning speed. Where are you going? How could Yi Chun let his opponent escape? His figure blurred, and when he reappeared, he was already at the right side of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. Yi Chun didn't use the edge of his sword to attack his opponent. With a shake of his hand, Yi Chun's sword struck his opponent. Crackle! The might of the Heaven Sword was so strong that the Starry Sky Bear Dog King was sent flying, smashing a hole in the mountain on the left, causing dust to fill the air. Without waiting for the other party to come out, Yi Chun leaped into the hole. Rumble! Another loud sound could be heard. Not long after, the sound calmed down. Will the Venerable be all right? The members of Hunter Team 2 were very nervous. In the hole, Yi Chun's left hand pressed on the head of the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, which was dizzy from the Heaven Sword's attack. He threatened, "Don't struggle, or else you will suffer." The Starry Sky Bear Dog King seemed to understand. After struggling for a while, it gave up resisting. In order to tame a ferocious beast, one naturally had to brand a soul imprint in the other party's soul ocean. The stronger the soul imprint, the higher the other party's loyalty. Not to mention anything else, Yichen was very confident in his own soul. The netherworld's sacred eye even allowed his soul to have the will of hell, which was not to be disobeyed. Very quickly, Yichen branded a complete soul imprint in the starry sky bear dog king's soul ocean. This wasn't the end. Yichen added a restriction on the soul imprint. Once the starry sky bear dog king tried to use its soul power to erase the soul imprint, it would be countered by the restriction. After doing all this, Yichen released the starry sky bear dog king. "Get up," Yichen ordered. Woo woo woo, the starry sky bear dog king crawled up from the ground like a puppy. It stuck out its tongue and licked the sole of Yichen's foot while wagging its tail. "In the future, I will call you Sky Splitter." Yichen thought for a moment and gave the starry sky bear dog king a name. The starry sky bear dog king's claws were very sharp and could tear the heaven and earth apart. When Yichen and the starry sky bear dog king jumped out of the hole, the members of the second hunter squad cheered. The Venerable was their eternal tribe's #1 expert. Together with the starry sky bear dog king, who could stop them? It was rare to tame the starry sky bear dog king, so Yichen brought it out to hunt. The starry sky bear dog king was indeed worthy of being called the starry sky bear dog king. Its hunting ability was quite impressive. Yichen didn't make a move and just watched from the side. In just a day's work, more than 100 ferocious beasts had been hunted. In the eternal tribe, everyone cheered. It was said that whoever tamed the starry sky bear dog king would have the qualifications to rule the wilderness god continent. Although this legend might not be true, it was undoubtedly very encouraging. Venerable, the new map has been drawn. The closest tribe to us is the second-ranked tribe, the Golden Sand tribe. The old village chief gave a map to Yichen. There was a red dot on it with the Golden Sand tribe written on it, and the black dot represented the eternal tribe. Golden Sand tribe? Yichen frowned. To be able to become a second-ranked tribe, the tribe would have at least 2,000 households, which was several times more than the eternal tribe. At the very least, the number of sovereigns would be several times more. Fortunately, it wasn't a third-ranked tribe. Otherwise, Yichen wouldn't be sure that the eternal tribe would be able to stop and conquer the other party. Who knew if the other party had any powerful experts? As long as there were 3 or 4 high-level sovereigns, it would be difficult for Yichen to defeat the other party, let alone break the other party's formation. At the same time, in the Golden Sand tribe, "Chief, we've already investigated. The new tribe is called the Eternal Tribe, a first-ranked tribe." The Golden Sand tribe's main hall was packed with people. Sitting in the main seat was a yellow-haired middle-aged man with a majestic aura. A mere first-ranked tribe dares to call themselves eternal? How ambitious. The yellow-haired middle-aged man snorted coldly. "Chief, give me a third of the troops. I, Jinho, am confident in conquering the eternal tribe." A skinny middle-aged sovereign walked out and volunteered. The Golden Sand tribe had a total of 3,800 households, and there were more than 1,000 people who could fight. A third was already a lot. Even a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit. "Jinho, lead half of the troops and set off. I'll wait for your good news in the tribe." The Golden Sand tribe's chief felt that a third of the troops wasn't enough. "I won't disappoint you." Jinho's face lit up. After he conquered the eternal tribe, he could choose a few more women to be his concubines and bear children for him. Such a good thing could only be encountered by chance. My Golden Sand tribe can finally be promoted to a third-ranked tribe. The Golden Sand tribe's chief was very happy. He picked up his wine pot and drank. Chapter 1332. The Golden Sand tribe is invading. Combat personnel, get ready. The rest of you stay in the tribe. The Golden Sand tribe's attack came earlier than Feng Baixiong had expected. It was no wonder. The Golden Sand tribe was a second-class tribe, while the Eternal tribe was a first-class tribe. In the eyes of the enemy, the Eternal tribe was undoubtedly a piece of juicy meat. The earlier they swallowed, the earlier they could feel at ease. On the plains beside the lake, the Golden Sand tribe's troops gathered together. At a glance, there were 45 Supremes, while the Eternal tribe only had 25. There were 20 more Supreme beings, a great disparity in numbers. I'm the third elder of the Golden Sand tribe, Marquis Jean. Today, I'm here to conquer your eternal tribe. If you know what's good for you, quickly surrender to prevent any casualties. Marquis Jean was clad in golden armor and wielded a large blade. I am the venerable of the eternal tribe. I advise the Golden Sand tribe to surrender as soon as possible. Yi Chen and the Starry Sky Bear Dog King walked out. What a huge Starry Sky Bear Dog. Marquis Jin's eyes widened. Third elder, it's the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. The supremes of the Golden Sand tribe reminded Marquis Jean. Hearing this, Jinho's breathing became hurried. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King was 100 times rarer than an ordinary Starry Sky Bear Dog. It could only be chanced upon, not sought. If he could bring the Starry Sky Bear Dog King back to the leader, his position would definitely rise greatly, becoming the Great Elder, who was second only to the leader. Kid, hand over the Starry Sky Bear Dog King, and I'll spare your life. Marquis Jean said sternly. If you have the ability, come and take it yourself. Yi Chen mocked. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Kill him. Marquis Jean waved his hand. The supremes of the Golden Sand tribe rushed out like a whirlwind, pouncing towards the supremes of the Eternal tribe. Heaven Splitter, go and eat Marquis Jean. Yi Chen could tell that Jinho only had the aura of a peak supreme being, and Sky Splitter could easily kill him. He did not know that the Starry Sky Bear Dog King that followed him was countless times more powerful than normal Starry Sky Bear Dogs. It was not something that a mere supreme like him could handle. Of course, if Marquis Jean knew that Heaven Splitter had the strength of a mid-level supreme, he probably wouldn't have ordered the attack. After all, Heaven Splitter had the strength of a mid-level supreme. Yi Chen, who could tame Heaven Splitter, definitely had the strength of a mid-level supreme. Roar! Heaven Splitter's four limbs exerted force, and with a single leap, he arrived beside Jinho. His sharp claws shot out and clawed at Jinho. How could Jinho have expected Heaven Splitter's speed to be so fast? He only had the time to raise his saber horizontally before a huge force collided with him. The saber slashed back, causing Jinho's body to tremble violently, and fresh blood spurted out. Impossible! Jinho's eyes bulged. Without waiting for Jinho to react, Sky Splitter opened his mouth and bit off Jinho's head. His claws clawed at Jinho's body, turning him into a bloody mess. Finally, Sky Splitter swallowed him whole. The stomach of a ferocious beast was a world of its own, capable of digesting existences stronger than itself. Clang! A set of supreme armor and a huge blade were spat out by Sky Split. Vicious beasts were unable to digest supreme weapons. Of course, it wasn't impossible to forcefully digest them, but it would take too much time and wouldn't bring any benefits. With a supreme weapon in its stomach, the efficiency of digesting other things would be reduced. The gains didn't make up for the losses. Good job. Yi Chen put away the supreme armor and saber. The Desolate Race Supreme's domain realm was too low. Yi Chen released his sword domain with all his might, instantly enveloping the 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes. The 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes panicked as they powered their domains to resist the sword domain. Unfortunately, their domains felt like they were facing a vast ocean against the sword domain. It was already pretty good that they could protect themselves, so how could they resist it? Yi Chen couldn't even be bothered to pull out the celestial sword. He punched out 30 times in one breath, and with the 30 punches, the 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes immediately collapsed to the ground, losing all combat strength. This was the result of Yi Chen showing mercy, or his punches would have killed them. After devouring Jinho, Sky Splitter did not continue devouring the other Golden Sand Tribe Supremes. It only injured them to the ground. A man and a dog were invincible. Your third elder is dead. Quickly abandon your weapons and surrender, or you will be killed without mercy. Yi Chen shouted loudly, accompanied by Sky Splitter's domineering roar. Hearing this, all the Golden Sand Tribe Supremes threw down their weapons. It wasn't that they were cowardly, but the disparity was too great. The other party, a man and a dog, had taken care of most of them. Continuing to resist was just courting death. Village Chief, incorporate them. In the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen was in charge of fighting, while the Village Chief was in charge of incorporating them. The two had a clear division of labor. All right, The village chief, Feng Baixiong, was overjoyed. Yi Chen's combat strength was too strong. The Eternal Tribe was destined to prosper, and they would achieve great things in the Wilderness God continent. The incorporation was very smooth. After the oath was made, the Golden Sand Tribe's men that Jin Ho brought became members of the Eternal Tribe. The Eternal Tribe became unprecedentedly powerful, with more than 70 supremes. Things were not over yet. Since the two tribes had already started fighting, they naturally had to conquer the Golden Sand Tribe as soon as possible. With Yi Chun and the village chief in the lead, a group of people marched towards the Golden Sand Tribe. The original Golden Sand Tribe members followed behind bitterly. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. As long as Yi Chun and the Starry Sky Bear Dog King were here, it would not be difficult for the Eternal Tribe to become a fifth-ranked tribe. The Golden Sand Tribe would have to submit sooner or later. After a day, the group arrived near the Golden Sand Tribe. In Golden Sand Tribe, the yellow-haired middle-aged man walked out with a group of Supremes. When he saw Jin Ho's group standing behind Yi Chen's group, his eyes couldn't help but squint as he asked in a loud voice, "Where is Jin Ho? Jin Hun, what's going on? Tell me quickly." Jin Hun was the leader of the Golden Sand Tribe's 5 hunting squads. He smiled bitterly and said, "Leader, we have already submitted to the Eternal Tribe. As for Elder Jin Ho, he died in battle." Another original Golden Sand Tribe Supreme said, "Leader, the Golden Sand Tribe can't resist supremacy Yi Chen's strength. We should quickly surrender." His family was in the Golden Sand Tribe. Since he had submitted to the Eternal Tribe, he naturally hoped that the Golden Sand Tribe would submit as well. Bullshit. If you want to conquer my Golden Sand Tribe, you have to defeat me first. Who dares to fight me? The Golden Sand Tribe's leader was bolder and more domineering than Yi Chun had imagined. He originally wanted to ask Sky Splitter to leave, but that was too insulting. "I'll fight you." Yi Chun stood with his hands behind his back. "One punch. As long as you can take one punch from me, the Golden Sand Tribe will henceforth submit to the Eternal Tribe." The Golden Sand Tribe's leader was rough on the outside, but meticulous on the inside. The Eternal Tribe had many more Supremes than them. If they fought as a group, they would definitely lose. Therefore, he decided to retreat in order to advance and fight alone. Like a primordial mountain running, the Golden Sand Tribe's leader roared and punched at Yi Chun. This punch shone with golden light. Before the punch arrived, the wind from the punch had already arrived. The terrifying wind from the punch tore the ground apart and violently churned. "Not bad, it's a novice Supremes." Yi Chun also punched out. The two fists collided. Yi Chun didn't move a single inch, but the Golden Sand Tribe's leader vomited blood and was sent flying. Chapter 1333. Just like that, the Golden Sand Tribe completely submitted to the Eternal Tribe, and the Eternal Tribe suddenly became a second-class tribe with 4,850 families. They only needed 150 families to officially become a third-class tribe. On this day, Yi Chun was practicing swordsmanship in the yard. He had been a Supreme for some time, but the 5-element sword technique had not reached the great success stage. This was also the reason why he could not improve further and become in existence on the same level as Supreme True Martial and Sky Demon Supremes. After all, these two, even if they did not have a divine weapon, were still high-level Supreme. Yi Chun did not have a divine weapon, Sky Sword, so he was only a mid-level Supreme. There was a difference of 1 level. Although the essence of the 3 Realm Supremes martial arts has benefited me a lot, and my swordsmanship has improved by leaps and bounds, other people's skills are still other people's. I can use it as a reference, but I can't copy it. If I want to reach the great success stage of the 5-element sword technique, I need something new to inspire me. Or like Supreme True Martial and the others, I can use time to accumulate, but that is too slow. Yi Chun frowned slightly. At his level, it was way too hard to make any progress. Right now, the only thing he was confident in was his spirit body. But, if he could not find any precious treasures, then it would be pointless. Ta. There was a knock on the door outside the yard. "Come in," Yi Chun said casually. The person who came in was the chief of the Golden Sand Tribe, Jin Ba. "Supremacy, Jinba said respectfully. The Eternal Tribe could do without the old village chief or anyone else, but it could not do without the supremacy. The more he spent time with Yi Chun, the more he felt that Yi Chun was powerful. What is it? Yi Chun asked. Jinba smiled. I want to offer a treasure to the supremacy. Treasure? Yi Chun looked at Jinba carefully. What treasure? Jinba was a bold and domineering person, and he valued power very much. Yi Chun guessed that Jinba wanted to build a good relationship with him, so that when the Eternal Tribe developed into a powerful tribe, he could get a good position. Supremacy, please take a look. Jinba did not keep Yi Chun in suspense, taking out a half-meter square stone from his storage ring. The stone was gray in color, and its edges were not even. It looked like a small fragment of a broken stone wall. Yi Chun did not pay much attention at first, but the next moment his expression changed. There was nothing special about the stone. It was just a hard stone, but there was an extra word on it, tyrant. This word seemed to come alive, giving off a boundless domineering aura. One look was enough to shock Yi Chun's mind. The change in Yi Chun's expression naturally could not be hidden from Jinba. Holding the stone with both of his hands, Jinba said respectfully, "This item is for you, sir." Where did you get this? Yi Chun took the stone and asked. Taking back his hands, Jinba replied, Thousands of years ago, in the middle of the endless mountains, someone found a stone wall with the calligraphy written on it. Because of this stone wall, dozens of powerful tribes started a war. In the end, the stone wall broke into thousands of pieces and flew away. I was lucky enough to get one of them. Looking at the word tyrant on it, my martial arts improved by leaps and bounds. Therefore, I believe that this calligraphy was not written by an ordinary person. Perhaps it was a legendary supreme. Not only a legendary supreme, but just by looking at the word tyrant, Yi Chun knew that the owner of the calligraphy was not just a simple legendary supreme. It was very likely a demigod, because from this word, Yi Chun could see countless possibilities. Legendary supreme was the essence, while demigods were the experts. The so-called experts did not mean that they were experts in everything. Alright, I'll accept it. If you need anything in the future, come find me, Yi Chun said. As long as the Venerable likes it, Jinba has no requirements. Jinba looked rough and domineering, but he was actually very meticulous. He only hoped that Yi Chun would have a good impression of him. This was more important than anything else. After Jinba left, Yi Chun carefully looked at the word tyrant on the stone. Unknowingly, Yi Chun's mind entered a strange space. In this space, a shadow was performing one set of sword techniques after another. These sword techniques were all different, but they had one thing in common, and that was domineering. After a long time, Yi Chun's mind exited the strange space. What a powerful word, tyrant. The simple word tyrant made Yi Chun understand what it meant to be domineering. In front of this word, Jinba's domineering aura was child's play. Yi Chun had never seen anyone with more domineering aura than the word tyrant. Perhaps by studying this word, I can create a supreme sword move that has reached the completion stage. There was a difference between a sword move and a sword art. A sword move was just one move, while a sword art was complete. Compared to the former, the latter was more profound. For example, as long as the 5 elements sword art reached the completion stage, all the sword moves that used the profound of the 5 elements as the foundation would reach the completion stage, greatly increasing their power. However, once a sword move reached the completion stage, there would be no way for the other sword moves to benefit. Even so, Yi Chun was still full of hope. A supreme sword move at the completion stage would greatly increase his combat power. As the days passed, Yi Chun's study of the word tyrant became more profound. Among all the sword moves, the 5 elements slash is the most suitable for this word. Creating a sword move for the word tyrant alone was too time-consuming. Integrating the essence of the word into the 5 elements slash would save a lot of time. What Yi Chun wanted to do was to combine the two into one. A month later, beside a lake near the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chun practiced his sword moves over and over again, while the Starry Bear Dog King, Sky Splitter, was capturing aquatic beasts. Open! The tyrannical sword momentum kept increasing. When it reached the limit, Yi Chen slashed at the lake. Boom! A sword mark that was dozens of miles long and 100 meters deep appeared in the lake. Splash! Water splashed everywhere as aquatic beasts were shaken out of the lake, turning into a bloody pulp on the spot. Sky Splitter jumped in fright and quickly retreated. The wilderness god continent was different from the outside world. Every blade of grass, every tree, every soil, and every rock was incomparably hard. Normally, it would be impressive if Yi Chen could leave a sword mark that was several miles long in the lake. The 5 elements / combined the essence of the word tyrant. Let's call it the tyrant sword form. The tyrant sword form wasn't just tyrannical. More importantly, it transformed the profound of the 5 elements into an invincible force. Although Yi Chen's 5 elements sword art hadn't reached the completion stage, the tyrant sword form had reached the completion stage. It was like taking a shortcut. A single word tyrant allowed me to create the tyrant sword form. I wonder how many words there are in that calligraphy. If I can comprehend the entire calligraphy, how amazing would that be? The power of the tyrant sword form made Yi Chen realize how precious the calligraphy on the stone wall was. One had to know that a piece of calligraphy would have at least dozens of words, maybe even hundreds of words. If a single word was so powerful, how amazing would dozens or hundreds of words be? Yi Chen didn't even dare to think about it. One more reason to make the eternal tribe strong. Yi Chen wanted to obtain the complete stone wall. Even if he couldn't get it, it would be good if he could get one more word. In order to obtain these words, he naturally had to conquer the other tribes. Chapter 1334. Half a month later, the Eternal Tribe rose to the 3rd rank. A village called Bluestone Village came to join. This village originally had 2 supremes, but one of them died while hunting in the mountains. The remaining supremes felt that the village would be hard to maintain, so he led the villagers to join the Eternal Tribe. At least, they wouldn't have to worry about meat anymore. During this period of time, many scouts from other tribes discovered the Eternal Tribe. The Huangshan continent was vast and sparsely populated. Moreover, the Huangshan divine law covered the entire continent, limiting the range of soul power. If one wanted to draw a map, they would have to send people to scout everywhere. The Eternal Tribe had a team in charge of scouting and drawing maps, called the Scouting Team, led by 2 supremes. There were 4 tribes on the Eternal Tribe's latest map. The Eternal Tribe was in the center, the Armored Tribe was in the north, the Flying Bird Tribe was in the south, and the Greenwood Tribe was in the northeast. Among them, the Armored Tribe was the closest to the Eternal Tribe, the Flying Bird Tribe was a bit further, and the Greenwood Tribe was the furthest. It was about twice the distance to the Armored Tribe, but the Greenwood Tribe and the Armored Tribe were close. Yi Chen wasn't in a hurry to attack. Taking down these tribes would be a piece of cake for him, so there was no need to rush. Recently, he had been comprehending the martial intent in the tyrant character. This was the martial intent of a demigod, which had reached the 9th step. His destruction sword intent and immortal sword intent were both at the peak of the 8th step, only a step away from the 9th step. Perhaps, he would be able to find a path to the 9th step. In the sky, a nimble figure was hurrying at an unimaginable speed. Comprehending the line character actually increased my speed so much. I heard Dad say that the one who wrote this was a demigod. Seems like it's true. Passing by a mountain peak, the nimble figure landed. It was a beautiful woman in her 20s. Her eyes were big, and she seemed to be the unruly type. She didn't fear anything in the world, but judging from her aura, she was at the level of a super supremes. There was even a hint of nobility that seemed to look down on the world. This was the temperament of a person with a high position. After so many days, let's take a rest first. The woman took out an exquisite and beautiful courtyard from her storage ring. The courtyard landed with a faint radiance, and the woman entered. At night, boom! A loud sound rang out, and the woman walked out of the house. She looked at the dizzy supreme-level vicious beasts outside, and couldn't help but smile. My father personally laid out 18 layers of arrays in this courtyard. Each layer of array can defend against a legendary supreme level's attack for a very long time. To completely break through these 18 layers of arrays, An ordinary legendary supreme level expert would need at least 1 or 2 months of continuous attacks. If someone heard the woman's words, they would definitely be dumbfounded. 18 layers of array formations? Each layer could defend against a legendary supreme's attack for a long time? Could it be that the girl's father was a legendary supreme being, one that was proficient in array formations? Or was he a mid-level, or even high-level legendary supreme being? Forget it. I was woken up by the noise. Let me comprehend the word break first. Taking out a stone with the word break on it, the woman's mind entered the strange space. The next day the courtyard and then the courtyard. A 5th rank tribe is too powerful. I'm definitely not a match for it. There are at least 600 to 700 supreme beings inside. And there are probably quite a number of super supreme beings. Rank 4 tribes have 200 to 300 supremes. My defense is not that high. It's too risky. Let's play it safe. I'll just take down a rank 3 tribe. Once I have my own force, I'll upgrade it to rank 4, or even rank 5. Every time she passed a tribe, the woman would murmur. By the time the tribe's experts caught up, she would be long gone. On this day, the woman arrived at the Iron Armor tribe. This is the tribe. She took out her crescent blade and yelled, "Who's the leader? Come out and surrender. This tribe is mine." As she spoke, she slashed at the Iron Armor tribe. The invincible saber chi broke through dozens of layers of formations like a hot knife through butter, almost destroying the Iron Armor tribe's formation completely. The leader and other supremes, who were about to come out, felt their scalps go numb. Where did this little fiend come from? She broke through so many layers of arrays with one blade strike. She's at least a high-level super supremes. Iron River, Iron Mountain, you two come with me. The leader of the Iron Armor tribe was a black-robed old man. Following him were 2 muscular men. All 3 of them had the aura of a super supremes. You're not going to surrender? That's fine. I've been bored to death. The woman was eager to try. The leader of the Iron Armor tribe, Taiyu, took a deep breath and yelled, "I'm the leader of the Iron Armor tribe. If you know what's good for you, leave now. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Although the other party was a high-level supremes, Taiyu himself was a mid-level supremes. Together with the 2 low-level supremes, they still had a chance. So much nonsense. Watch my blade. The woman slashed at Taiyu. The dark green blade light was fast and swift. So fast. Taiyu hurriedly raised the shield in his hand. This shield was a supreme weapon that could be used for both defense and offense. With a clang, sparks flew in all directions. Taiyu staggered back dozens of steps and almost fell. "Let's go together." Taiyu roared. Rows of sawteeth appeared on the edge of the shield. Holding the shield, Taiyu charged at the woman. Facing the 3's attacks, the woman moved her feet and disappeared without a trace. When she reappeared, she was behind Taishan. With a sweep of the back of her blade, Taishan was sent flying while vomiting blood. Taiyu was also confused by the woman's elusive movements. In a moment of carelessness, his chin was hit by the hilt of the blade. What kind of movement speed is this? How could Taiyu not see that the woman's movement speed was extremely fast? When the opponent's speed reached a certain level, no matter how strong one was, it would be useless unless one's defense was very high. Still not surrendering? Do you really want me to fight seriously? The woman raised her crescent blade and shouted at Taiyu. Taiyu's expression changed several times. In the end, he had to face reality. It was obvious that the opponent was not serious. Once she did, the consequences would be unpredictable. Although the Iron Armor tribe had many supremes, most of them were ordinary supremes. If they fought to the death, the Iron Armor tribe might be able to repel the opponent, but the tribe's losses would not be small. In the future, it would be very difficult to contend against the other 3rd-rank tribes. Rather than that, it was better to surrender. There was a big difference between surrendering to a person and surrendering to a tribe. Surrendering to the latter, one's status would be much lower. Seeing the other surrender, the woman nodded with a look of teaching. "Don't worry. I won't steal your position. As long as you give me the title of supremacy, I can help you raise the Iron Armor tribe to 4th, or even 5th rank." Iron Armor tribe's main hall. Taiyu took out a map and said to the woman, "Supremacy, There are 3 tribes around the Iron Armor tribe: Greenwood tribe, Eternal tribe, and Blood-drinking tribe. Among them, Greenwood tribe is the lowest, the second-rank tribe. Eternal tribe is 3rd rank, and Blood-drinking tribe is also 3rd rank. Then we'll start with Greenwood tribe, then conquer Eternal tribe and Blood-drinking tribe. The woman glanced at the map and said, "Supremacy, the Iron Armor tribe's main force has set off for Greenwood tribe." A scout from the Eternal tribe reported. "So fast. Is he not afraid of us attacking him?" Yi Chen revealed a pensive expression. In fact, he alone could conquer a 3rd-rank tribe, and even a 4th-rank tribe might not be able to stop him. Let's first conquer the Flying Bird tribe. Facing such a situation, the Eternal tribe had to be prepared just in case. Chapter 1335. Just like the Eternal tribe, the Flying Bird tribe only had 2 supremes, 1 mid-level and 1 low-level supremes. They were the chief and great elder of the Flying Bird tribe. "Report, the Eternal tribe is attacking." A scout rushed into the main hall of the Flying Bird tribe. "They're finally attacking. Everyone, get ready to defend against the Eternal tribe. Today, either we conquer the Eternal tribe, or the Eternal tribe conquers us." The chief of the Flying Bird tribe was a middle-aged woman with a charming appearance. "Good timing. After conquering the Eternal tribe, our Flying Bird tribe will become a level 4 tribe." The great elder of the Flying Bird tribe laughed. Not far from the Flying Bird tribe, the Eternal tribe's combatants, led by Yi Chen and the village chief, flew toward the Flying Bird tribe. Soon, they stopped near the Flying Bird tribe. "Your Eternal tribe is really daring. You've just become a level 3 tribe, and you already dare to attack my Flying Bird tribe. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." The great elder of the Flying Bird tribe shouted. Jin Ba replied, "If it wasn't for the benevolence of our venerable, your Flying Bird tribe would have been long gone. Hurry up and surrender. Don't waste our venerable's time. Arrogant. Get your venerable to come out. I Takada will fight him." The great elder of the Flying Bird tribe was called Takada. "You think you're worthy? I Jin Ba will fight you." Jin Ba's figure flashed and appeared in the open space in front of him. There were all kinds of battles between tribes. Some were invitations, some were group battles, and some were between chiefs. Different situations had different forms of battles. "You can't do it." Takada brought with him the power to destroy mountains and slashed towards Jin Ba. Bang, 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 bang. Both of them were low-level supremes, and their strengths were about the same. After 500 rounds of fierce battle, Jin Ba eventually won, sending Takada flying with a punch. Of course, it was difficult to injure the other at the same level, let alone kill him. Takada wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, wanting to fight again. "Takada, that's enough. Jin Ba, stand down." At this moment, the chief of the Flying Bird tribe and Yi Chen spoke at the same time. Takada reluctantly retreated. Jin Ba grinned and returned to the Eternal tribe camp. "I'm the venerable of the Eternal tribe, Yi Chen. If you can block one of my punches, the Eternal tribe will retreat immediately." Yi Chen slowly walked forward and said to the leader of the Flying Bird tribe, "One punch." A trace of indignation flashed on the face of the Soaring Bird tribe's leader. She was a mid-level super sovereign, and even a high-level super sovereign wouldn't dare to say that they could defeat her in a single punch. She really didn't know if the other party was arrogant or ignorant. "Chief of the Flying Bird tribe, Gao Yu, please enlighten me." Gao Yu silently took a few steps forward. It was these few steps that caused Jin Ba's expression to change drastically. The village chief and the rest were puzzled. Gao Yu's few steps were as though hundreds or thousands of people were stacked on top of each other. Before the other party's feet touched the ground, it was impossible to predict how the other party would move, or where they would eventually appear. In short, there were countless possibilities in these few steps. An ordinary mid-level super sovereign would probably lose to her in one move. Of course, it was only defeat and not death. It was impossible to kill someone at the same level. If one could kill someone at the same level, then they wouldn't be on the same level anymore. What a mysterious movement technique. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and nodded slightly. "Are you done?" asked Yi Chen with his hands behind his back. "I've been done for a long time. Gao Yu was also sizing up Yi Chen. She could see that Yi Chen's aura was deep and unfathomable, but she was still very confident in blocking one punch. In that case, be careful. Yi Chen took out his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Take my punch. Without moving his body, Yi Chen's right fist swung out. In the next moment, layers of fist energy enveloped Gao Yu like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. The speed was fast and tricky. Gao Yu's eyes were solemn. Her body quickly shuttled back and forth. As she shuttled back and forth, countless of her appeared in the void. On each of her, there was a shadow of a bird. These bird shadows brought Gao Yu to dodge the fist energy at unimaginable angles. Seeing that all the fist energy was about to hit nothing, a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Chen's mouth. Suddenly, all the fist energy turned into one and landed on one of Gao Yu's body. Puff! Gao Yu spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. This was her real body. How did you see through it? Gao Yu asked with a face full of disbelief. Your transformation is too simple for me. And my fist technique is the mortal world killing fist of the three realms. Other than not having such dense killing intent and power, it is no different from the mortal world killing fist. Yi Chen said the last sentence in his heart. I'm impressed. From today onwards, there will be no flying bird tribe, Gao Yu said bitterly. Leader. Gao Tian was anxious. Gao Yu waved her hand. The difference is obvious. Can't you see it? The conquest of the flying bird tribe went smoothly. After keeping the flying bird tribe's houses, everyone gathered together and returned to the eternal tribe. The flying bird tribe had a total of 6,500 households. Together with the eternal tribe's 5,000 households, there were a total of 11,500 households. The eternal tribe had officially become a fourth-rank tribe. Compared to the change in population, the increase in supremes greatly increased the eternal tribe's strength. The flying bird tribe had 75 supremes, while the eternal tribe had 70. Adding up to 145, there were 4 super supremes, 31 powerful supremes, and 110 ordinary supremes. With so many supremes in the outside world, it would definitely be an unparalleled force. Unfortunately, the wilderness god continent was enveloped by the wilderness god's laws. The people of the wilderness race would never be able to leave the wilderness god continent. Even outsiders would find it extremely difficult to leave. Yi Chen guessed that the reason the wilderness god continent could produce so many supremes was probably related to the wilderness god's laws. After all, it went against common sense. No one knew the meaning of the wilderness god continent's existence. Perhaps only the gods and the wilderness god knew. The eternal tribe, which had more than doubled in size, looked like a small city. There were spacious roads, buildings of varying heights, and a plaza in the middle of the tribe. It had everything. The tribe had even opened simple shops. With more people, the social environment would become more complicated. This was a process of progress. Iron Armor Tribe. What? When we conquered the Greenwood Tribe, the Eternal Tribe conquered the Flying Bird Tribe. How could it be so fast? Upon hearing the scout's report, the Iron Armor Tribe's leader, Tai Yu, widened his eyes. The scout lowered his head and said, It's absolutely true. I also saw the Flying Bird Tribe's leader, Gao Yu. Hee, looks like the Eternal Tribe isn't simple. There might be an expert, an extremely powerful expert, holding down the fort. Otherwise, it would be impossible for an ordinary third-rank tribe to conquer another third-rank tribe in such a short period of time. The woman took a bite of fruit. Then what do we do? Tai Yu asked the woman. It's very simple. First, give up on the eternal tribe and devour the bloodthirsty tribe. The woman became interested in the eternal tribe. Interesting things were put at the end of her life motto. Chapter 1336. The blood-drinking tribe was very strong, much stronger than the armored tribe. The entire tribe had 8,000 families, 100 supremes and 5 super supremes. If it wasn't for the fact that the blood-drinking tribe didn't have any high-level super supremes, the armored tribe would have already been devoured. For a tribe that wanted to level up, not only did they need many supremes, they also needed an expert that could intimidate the masses. Without such an expert, even if they had more supremes, It would be very difficult to defeat a tribe of the same level. The armored tribe and the blood-drinking tribe had fought many times, and the blood-drinking tribe always had the upper hand. Unfortunately, they couldn't completely suppress the armored tribe. The Greenwood tribe lived near the two great tribes, and was lucky enough to survive. After all, the two great tribes didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, if their nest was destroyed, it would be a big problem. This balance was broken until the mysterious woman came. Leader, the Iron Armor tribe is attacking. The atmosphere in the blood-drinking tribe was heavy. They had found out that a powerful expert had come to the armored tribe. With just the strength of a single person, they were afraid that their blood-drinking tribe would also be conquered. Let's go and meet her. The leader of the blood-drinking tribe was a bald man with a blood tattoo on his head. Leading a group of people, the bald man walked out of the blood-drinking tribe. I am Xue Kuang, the leader of the blood-drinking tribe. Xue Kuang's eyes swept around and soon, his attention fell on the mysterious woman. The woman smiled and said, "You should be unwilling to surrender directly. How about this? If you can take one blade from me, the armored tribe will immediately retreat." This woman's words coincided with Yi Chen's. Only the time and place were different. Okay. Holding a spear, Xue Kuang arrived in front of the woman. Make your move. The woman pulled out her crescent moon blade and pointed it at the ground. Sorry for the offense. Xue Kuang let out a low roar, and his entire body turned into a blood-colored tornado, sweeping towards the woman. Countless blood-colored spear shadows shot out from the tornado's mouth, which was extremely domineering. Break! The woman held the crescent moon blade with one hand and slashed down. A blade light flashed, and the blood-colored tornado was split into two. In the next moment, Xue Kuang was sent flying, and there was a faint blade light behind him. Wow! Xue Kuang coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. It was too terrifying. His opponent's blade chi had been released, and then retracted, obviously holding back. However, that invincible blade chi had still pierced through his body, causing him quite a bit of damage. It was hard to imagine that if his opponent had used his full strength, he would have died. The blood-drinking tribe is willing to submit to the Iron Armor tribe. As he vomited blood, Xue Kuang raised his hand in surrender. Even the blood-drinking tribe has been conquered. It seems like the Iron Armor tribe is going to soar to the skies. Tai Yu rejoiced in his heart. He was even glad that the woman had conquered the Iron Armor tribe. Otherwise, the Iron Armor tribe would not have such glory. In the future, when the Iron Armor tribe became a fifth-ranked tribe, his authority as the leader would definitely increase greatly. After conquering the bloodthirsty tribe, the armored tribe only had one target left, the Eternal tribe. Has the blood-drinking tribe been conquered? After receiving the scout's report, Yi Chen fell into deep thought. The old village chief was puzzled. How did the Iron Armor tribe's strength suddenly increase so much? I remember that the blood-drinking tribe was much stronger than the Iron Armor tribe before. Yi Chen speculated. The Iron Armor tribe should have sent an expert. Expert? Could it be someone from the outside world? The supremes of the Eternal tribe looked at Yi Chen. I don't know if it's someone from the outside world, but in addition to outsiders, the Wild's God continent definitely has its own powerful experts. There were too many supremes in the Wild's God continent, and the more there were, the more likely there were experts. From Yi Chen's point of view, the Wild's God continent was very likely to have legendary supremes, or even more than one. Gao Yu said, Venerable is right. There are many tribes in the Wild's God continent. Generally, a fifth-ranked tribe has a high-level supremes, a sixth-ranked tribe has a peak supremes or quasi-legend supremes, a seventh-ranked tribe has a legendary supremes, and an eighth-ranked tribe is said to be the peak of the Wild's God continent. There are basically no ninth-ranked tribes. Once they appear, they will be defeated by the alliance of many eighth-ranked tribes. After all, Gao Yu was once the leader of a third-ranked tribe, so she knew more than others. We'll deal with it when it comes. When the Iron Armor tribe attacks, we'll know what kind of expert it is. Yi Chen was also very curious about this mysterious expert. What would come would come. 3 days later, the Iron Armor tribe attacked. Yi Chen and the mysterious woman noticed each other at a glance. The two really stood out too much. You're the expert of the Eternal tribe? The expert of the iron armor tribe should be you. The two spoke one after the other. Hee, it seems that you're a strong opponent. I wonder if you can block my saber technique. The woman was very confident in her saber technique. We'll know after we try. Yi Chen pulled out the heavenly sword. The heavenly sword was a sacred artifact. Even if its source was damaged, it was still not something a supreme's weapon could compare to. A sacred artifact. The woman determined the grade of the heavenly sword at a glance. On the Wild's God continent, sacred artifacts were usually in the hands of legendary supremes. Her father was the leader of the Unfalling Eagle tribe, and he had a sacred artifact, Skyhammer. Every sacred artifact had a powerful characteristic. The Skyhammer's characteristic was destruction. He didn't know what the sacred artifact in his opponent's hand had. Fortunately, my Blue Moon Saber is also a sacred artifact and has an armor-piercing characteristic. Destruction and armor-piercing couldn't be lumped together. Destruction was pure destruction, while armor-piercing was about gathering power to attack. Obviously, destruction was much stronger. Whoosh! The woman moved very fast, much faster than Yi Chen. If it wasn't for the Netherworld Sacred Eye, Yi Chen wouldn't even be able to see the woman's trajectory. When she reappeared, the woman was behind Yi Chen and slashed at him. As if he had eyes on the back of his head, Yi Chen turned around and blocked the woman's slash with his sword. Rumble! A huge crater appeared on the ground, as if a meteorite had crashed into it. The shockwave radiated, and many people fell on their butts. What a powerful might. The two of them aren't high-level supreme beings but peak supreme beings. Shui Kuang and Tai Yu could see it. On the Eternal Tribe's side, Gao Yu also saw it. The woman had conquered the Iron Armor tribe and the Blood-Drinking tribe before. But she hadn't used her true strength. For her, a little bit of power was enough to conquer them. Unlimited power condensation. Yi Chen's right hand was numb, and his eyes were solemn. The crescent moon saber in the woman's hand was clearly a sacred artifact. Different from the light power of the heavenly sword, the crescent moon saber carried the armor-piercing power. The light power was illusory, while the armor-piercing power was a real attack. Of course, it didn't mean that the light power was weaker than the armor-piercing power. The first move was just a test. The sword energy directly transmitted to my right arm. The woman didn't feel good either. The power contained in the opponent's sacred artifact was just and honorable, and it was difficult to completely exclude it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.